My stepson screamed at me in front of everyone, his small face red with anger, and spit flying from his mouth. "You're not my real mom," he yelled, voice shaking, eyes burning into mine like I was poison. The whole classroom froze. The teacher, Miss Carter, stared at him with her mouth open. The other kids whispered behind their hands. And I just stood there, my heart pounding, my breath stuck in my chest. He had never screamed like that before. Not with that much hate. Then, only minutes later, Miss Carter walked toward me, holding a paper in her hand, her eyes wide with truth that would change everything. "Actually," she whispered, looking at my stepson with shock, "this test result proves she is your mother." Everyone gasped. My stepson's face turned white. And then, right before my eyes, he collapsed to his knees. If you want to see what happens next, don't scroll away. Watch till the end, like this story, and make sure you subscribe because this one will shake your soul. My name is Emily Parker. I am 34 years old, and I never imagined my life would turn into a storm of secrets, lies, and revenge. I remember 3 years ago, when I married Daniel, the man I thought was my dream. He was 40, charming, always smiling. He had soft dark hair and this strong, warm voice that made me feel safe. He also had a 9-year-old son, Ethan. When we met, Ethan was shy, quiet, a sweet boy with brown eyes and messy curls who hid behind his dad's legs the first day I saw him. I knelt down to smile at him, trying to look friendly. "Hi, Ethan," I said softly. "I'm Emily." He didn't speak. He just looked at me with those big, scared eyes. Daniel placed a warm hand on his shoulder. "She's going to be around a lot," he explained. "So, I want you to know she's family." Ethan nodded slowly. I thought it would be easy. I thought love would make everything perfect. But I was wrong. So wrong. On our wedding day, Ethan didn't smile. He didn't talk. When I tried to hug him, he pulled away like my hands were fire. Daniel said, "Give him time. He lost his mom too young." I understood. Ethan's mother, Natalie, died when he was 5. Tragic accident. Car crash in the rain. Whenever I tried to talk about her, Ethan would whisper, "Don't say her name," then run away to his room. He kept a little picture frame under his pillow, Natalie holding him in her arms. And every night, I heard him cry. I tried everything, cooking his favorite foods, playing board games, buying him books, leaving encouraging notes in his backpack. But he would throw the notes away, push the plates aside, slam the door shut. Still, I did not give up. Daniel, though, he didn't help much. He always said he was too tired after work, or too stressed, or in a bad mood. And I started to notice something strange. Whenever Ethan messed up, Daniel blamed me. Like the day Ethan brought home a school report saying he failed a spelling test. Daniel stormed into the living room. "What are you even doing all day, Emily? You're home before him. Why aren't you helping with homework? He needs a mother who knows what she's doing." I wanted to scream. I also worked every day at a small flower shop. I came home exhausted, hands covered in petals and thorns. But still, I tried. Around this time, Ethan began writing things about me in school. Dark things. Scary things. One day, Miss Carter called me. "Emily," she said carefully, "I think you should come to the school. There's something you need to see." When I walked into her office, she handed me a drawing Ethan made. It was me, but the picture showed my head on fire. And under it, Ethan wrote, "I wish she was gone." My stomach twisted. My hands shook. Tears burned my eyes. Miss Carter said softly, "I think he is hurting more than he says." That night, I sat on the couch, holding the drawing in my hands, staring at the flames he imagined. Daniel walked in, saw the paper, and instead of hugging me, instead of saying, "I'm sorry," he yelled, "It's your fault he feels this way. Stop trying to take his mother's place." Those words hit me harder than any slap. I whispered, "I'm trying." He answered coldly, "Try harder." From that day on, something in my heart cracked. Something inside me hardened. And slowly, Ethan's anger grew darker. One Saturday morning, I walked into the kitchen to find Ethan holding my phone. His fingers were on the screen. He was deleting photos of me and Daniel. All of them. I gasped.
Ethan,
Why are you doing that? He didn't look up. Didn't blink. He just said, "You don't belong here." I reached for the phone. He jerked it away and threw it across the kitchen floor. The screen shattered. My chest burned. "Ethan," I whispered, "that was not okay." He stared at me, eyes full of fire. "You can't make me love you." That hurt more than the broken screen. Still, I wiped silent tears from my cheeks and said nothing. Months passed. Things got worse. The more I tried, the more Ethan hated me. And Daniel began pulling away from me too. He came home late almost every night. He stopped kissing me goodbye. He barely spoke. Sometimes I smelled perfume that wasn't mine on his clothes, but I kept quiet. I didn't want to be paranoid. But there was something else. Something strange. Ethan didn't look exactly like Daniel. Different eyes.
different face shape.
Different smile. I thought maybe it was Natalie's genes. Maybe I was imagining it. Until the day Ethan asked me, "Do you know who my real father is?" My heart froze. My throat tightened. I thought your father was Daniel. Ethan shook his head. My grandma told me something different before she died. What did she say? She said Daddy might not be Daddy. I stared at him, shocked. Ethan, that must have been a misunderstanding. He pressed his lips together. I hate you, Emily. I hate you for lying. And he ran away. I wanted to run too. 2 weeks later came school parent day. We were supposed to visit the classroom, see students' folders, and talk about their progress. Daniel didn't go. He said he had a business meeting. So, I went alone. Ethan didn't want me there. He didn't even greet me. He just pointed to my face and loudly whispered to his friend, "That's the woman pretending to be my mom." The words hit hard, but I smiled weakly and said nothing. Miss Carter tried to make it better. "Ethan," she said softly, "Emily is here to support you." But Ethan stood up, shoved his chair back, and shouted at the whole room, "She's not my mom. She will never be my mom." Everyone stared. And then the moment that opened this chapter happened. The screaming, the shame, the collapse. But what happened right before the collapse is something no one saw coming. Miss Carter was holding a sealed, white envelope. She handed it to me quietly and whispered, "We ran something private, something Daniel approved. Please open this later." I slipped the envelope into my purse as chaos built in the classroom. And then Ethan screamed the words that stabbed into my soul. "You're not my real mom."
He pointed at my chest.
And spit landed on my arm. "I hate you. I wish you never came. You are nothing." My eyes filled with tears. The whole room stared. I felt shame crawl under my skin. And then, Miss Carter cleared her throat. "Ethan," she said firmly, "it's time to tell the truth." She lifted a paper from her desk. A DNA confirmation sheet. "Emily," she whispered, "this test proves you're not just his stepmother." The world froze. "You are his biological mother." The room gasped. My knees almost gave out. Ethan stared at the paper, then at me, then at the door. "No," he screamed. "That's impossible." His voice cracked. His face turned pale. His legs shook.
Then
he collapsed to the floor. Kids screamed. The teacher shouted his name. I ran to him, heart pounding. "Ethan! Ethan!" His eyes rolled back. His body went still. I grabbed his hand. It felt cold. And then, as everyone panicked, Miss Carter leaned down to my ear and whispered something that turned my blood into ice. "I think your husband lied to you. You need to read the whole report." I opened my bag with shaking hands. The envelope Miss Carter gave me was still inside. I tore it open, pulled out the papers, and saw a name where father's name should be. It wasn't Daniel's. It was someone else. Someone I knew. Someone who should have been long dead. My breath vanished. My heart slammed against my ribs. And just then, Daniel burst through the classroom door, face red, panting, eyes wild. "What happened?" he shouted. Everyone turned toward him. And I knew, from the darkness in his eyes, from the shaking in his voice, that he already knew what those papers said. Emily, he hissed under his breath, we need to talk.
Now.
But I didn't move, didn't blink, because before I could speak, Ethan opened his eyes, stared straight at Daniel, and whispered a sentence that made the room explode into chaos. You're not my dad. And Daniel looked directly at me, with a hatred I had never seen before. Daniel's face turned white, not pale, white like paper, like every drop of blood ran out of him at once. Ethan's voice was weak when he said the words, "You're not my dad." The classroom went silent again. Even the buzzing lights above us seemed to freeze. Then Daniel shouted, louder than I had ever heard him shout in his life.
Ethan.
Get up. We are leaving. His voice shook the walls. Miss Carter stepped between them. Sir, Ethan needs medical. But Daniel shoved past her and grabbed Ethan's arm. I panicked. Daniel, stop. I screamed, jumping forward. His head snapped toward me, eyes blazing. You did this, he yelled at me. This is your fault. Ethan whimpered under his grip. Dad, please, you're hurting me.
Dad.
He still called him Dad. My heart cracked a little more. Miss Carter gasped, Sir, let go of that child. Daniel didn't listen. He never listened. He yanked Ethan so hard his small body jerked like a rag doll. Kids screamed again. Chairs toppled. Chaos was everywhere. And then, Ethan threw up. Right there. All over the classroom floor. Daniel froze. The whole class froze again. My heart dropped. Ethan collapsed a second time, chest heaving, eyes rolling. I knelt beside him again. Call 911, I shouted. Miss Carter ran to the phone. Daniel stood still staring at Ethan like he didn't know who he was anymore. I took Ethan's hand. Stay with me, I whispered. Stay awake. His voice was so small. Mom, I feel sick.
Mom.
For the first time since I met him, he called me Mom. Tears filled my eyes instantly. I almost forgot how to breathe. Daniel snapped. He is confused. He doesn't know what he's saying. That was when I truly saw him, not as my husband, not as a father, but as a man terrified that the truth was crawling out of the dark to eat him alive. Minutes later, paramedics arrived. They lifted Ethan onto a stretcher. His eyes fluttered open and closed. I want Emily, Ethan whispered weakly. Not Dad. Daniel's jaw tightened. He doesn't mean it, he muttered. But the paramedic said, Sir, he's asking for Emily. She rides with him. Not you. Daniel looked ready to explode, but he stepped aside. I followed the stretcher out to the ambulance. Ethan reached his hand out to me. I held it tight. Before the doors closed, Daniel grabbed my arm so hard it hurt. We're talking about that paper, he hissed. I don't care if I have to drag you somewhere to do it. I ripped my arm away. I'm not afraid of you anymore, Daniel. His face twisted with rage. You should be. The ambulance doors slammed shut. On the way to the hospital, Ethan slowly lifted his head. Emily. His voice was thin, broken. I didn't mean to hurt you. My heart swelled. I know, I whispered. I forgive you. No, he whispered, shaking his head. You don't understand. Dad told me. He stopped talking, closed his eyes. I leaned closer.
Ethan? Talk to me.
But he didn't speak again. When we reached the hospital, they rushed him through shining hallways, bright lights blinding me. The smell of antiseptic burned my nose. A nurse stopped me at the door. You have to wait here. Please, I begged. I need to be with him. She shook her head. Doctors only. I stepped back, chest tight. Minutes later, Daniel arrived, breathless, furious, sweating like he had been running through fire. He walked straight up to me, grabbed my purse, and ripped out the DNA documents. What is this? He growled. I crossed my arms. Read it. He scanned the first page. Then the second. His eyes widened. You did this behind my back? No, I said calmly. You approved it. He blinked fast. I don't remember signing anything. That's because you didn't read before you signed, Daniel. You never do. He threw the papers onto a chair. This is fake. It has to be fake. I shook my head. It came from the school's legal department. Daniel said nothing. His breath came in sharp bursts. Finally, he whispered, voice trembling. He isn't mine? I didn't answer, because we both already knew. He sank into a seat. I raised him, he muttered. I fed him. I worked for him. I changed diapers. Stayed up nights. Watched cartoons. His voice cracked. I loved him. I softened. I know you did. He looked up suddenly, eyes full of something dark. And you are his real mother?
How?
How? You don't even remember giving birth. I remember 3 miscarriages, I whispered. I remember pain. I remember doctors saying I would never have a child. Daniel slammed his fist into the wall.
No.
You don't get to be the hero here. I am not trying to be a hero.
He stood.
You are lying. You want to hurt me. My voice dropped cold. You hurt yourself. He flinched like the words were knives. Before he could answer, a doctor appeared. Ethan Parker? We both jumped up. Daniel spoke first. I'm his father. The doctor looked uncomfortable. Actually, paperwork shows Emily is. Daniel interrupted, yelling. I said I am his father. The doctor stepped back. I'm sorry, sir. The boy asked for Emily. She comes in alone. Daniel looked like someone slapped him. I followed the doctor inside. Ethan lay on the bed, hooked to machines. His face looked too small, too pale. I sat beside him. He squeezed my fingers. Emily, he whispered, I need to tell you something. What is it, sweetheart? He stared at the wall. Dad told me you took something from him. He said you ruined our family. He said you were trying to replace Mom. Pain stabbed through me. Is that why you hated me? He nodded.
Yes.
Because he said when Mom died, you were happy. I felt sick. Honey, that is not true. His voice shook. He told me you laughed when you married him. Anger rose inside me. Daniel, lying to a grieving child, turning him into a weapon. Ethan whispered. He said the world will be better when you're gone. I gasped. Ethan? He closed his eyes. I'm sorry. I stroked his forehead. You're safe now. I'm not going anywhere. Then Ethan said the words that made me shiver. I know who my real dad is. My breath stopped. What? Ethan whispered. I heard Mom and Grandma talking once. Daddy wasn't Daddy. He was Mom's friend, the one who died, the firefighter. My blood turned ice. Alec. Alec Price. Daniel's old friend. The man who died saving 3 kids in a burning house. The man everyone loved. Yes, Ethan whispered. That's him. That means Daniel raised a child that wasn't his. Daniel married me, knowing I was Alec's biological match. Daniel lied to protect himself. The room spun. The doctor walked in. Good news. Ethan will be fine. I exhaled. Daniel pushed through the door behind him. He rushed to Ethan.
Buddy.
How do you feel? Ethan turned his face away. I want Emily. That broke something inside Daniel, like bones snapping under skin. He stood up slowly. His eyes slid to me, filled with fury. He leaned close to my ear. You are destroying my family. I stared back. You destroyed it yourself. He smiled. But not a real smile. A horrible, twisted smile. You think you're winning? He whispered. Wait until we get home. My heart pounded. What do you mean? Daniel smirked. Just know, this isn't over. He walked out. Miss Carter entered the room a minute later, carrying her purse. She whispered, I came to check on you both. I smiled weakly. Thank you. She sat beside me. Then she said something I didn't expect. Emily, there's more in that file you haven't read yet. What do you mean? The DNA test? It wasn't only Ethan's. I froze. I don't understand. She whispered. There was another sample. Another name. Another connection. What name? Miss Carter swallowed hard. Your husband. My stomach dropped. What about him? She looked into my eyes. The report says Daniel cannot father children at all. Everything stopped moving. I whispered. That means… She nodded slowly. Daniel knew Ethan wasn't his from the beginning. I covered my mouth. Oh my God. He also knew you were Alec's biological match 3 years ago. Daniel requested the hospital records to hide them. My body shook from head to toe. Miss Carter touched my arm gently. There is one more thing. What? The report shows Alec never died. My world exploded. What are you talking about? Alec's funeral. Emily, she whispered. Alec didn't die in that fire. He disappeared. I felt dizzy.
No.
That can't be true. She placed a folded newspaper clipping on the bed. Alec was last seen alive 2 years ago, asking questions about Daniel. My blood ran cold. Daniel walked back in, holding his car keys, face red. We're going home, he barked. No, Ethan said weakly. I'm staying with Emily. Daniel snapped. You don't get to choose. Nurses stared from the hallway. I stood.
He stays here tonight, I said.
Daniel glared. You think you're strong now because you have some papers? No, I whispered. I'm strong because I'm his mother. Daniel took a deep breath. Then he said something that made the room tilt sideways. You want revenge, Emily?
Fine.
Tomorrow I'll give you a reason to hate me forever. Before I could answer, Daniel grabbed his phone and dialed someone. He said 4 words that made my heart almost stop beating. It's time. Do it. Then he hung up. My chest tightened. What did you just do? Daniel smiled. You'll see. He left the room, laughing. Miss Carter grabbed my arm. Emily, we have a problem, she whispered. What problem? She pointed to the doorway. The man Daniel just called is already here. I turned slowly and saw a large man in a black hoodie, standing outside Ethan's room, staring straight at me, expression cold and hungry. He lifted his hand, revealing a gun tucked into his waistband. My heart dropped into my stomach. And then, he started walking toward us. The man in the black hoodie took another slow step toward Ethan's hospital room. I froze. My heartbeat slammed like a drum in my ears. Miss Carter whispered, voice shaking, Emily, do not move. But how could I stay still? My son, my real son, was lying in that bed behind me, and a stranger with a weapon was walking straight toward us. His eyes were dark, empty, hungry, like someone who had already decided what he came to do. He reached the doorway. His hand lifted a little higher. The gun glinted under the hospital lights. Ethan opened his eyes and saw the man. His voice cracked across the room, terrified. Mom. Everything inside me snapped. I shoved Miss Carter behind me and stepped in front of the doorway. You can't come in here, I said, trying to make my voice strong even though fear burned through my veins. The man smirked. I'm not here for the boy. My stomach twisted. Miss Carter whispered, Emily, step back. But I didn't. I stayed planted, staring up at the man who looked like a nightmare made of muscle and anger. He said quietly, Daniel wants you. Just hearing my husband's name made everything inside me go cold. What does he want? I forced out. The man lifted the corner of his hoodie, letting the gun show more. To talk. That, Miss Carter whispered sharply, is not talking. The man's eyes slid to her. That's why she stays out of this. Behind me, Ethan's monitor beeped faster, his heartbeat speeding, scared. Please, Ethan whispered. Don't hurt her. The man laughed. Kid, if your father wanted her dead, she'd be dead. He wants something else. I swallowed hard. What is that? He leaned close to my face. His breath smelled like mint and cigarettes. He wants you home. Now. My whole body shook. No. He blinked slowly. No. No. I repeated, louder this time. I'm not leaving my son. He stepped even closer, until we were nearly nose to nose. Emily, you have 5 seconds to start walking. No. I whispered again. I'm done being controlled. The man's jaw tightened. Wrong answer. He reached for the gun, and suddenly the hallway exploded with noise. Security, put the weapon down. 4 guards rushed forward. 2 had tasers. Two had batons. The man cursed and turned, trying to sprint away. One taser fired. Electric sparks shot through the air. The man jerked violently and crashed to the floor, body shaking. Nurses screamed. Ethan sobbed. Then everything went still. The man lay limp on the ground, not moving. Security dragged him away. I collapsed into a chair, shaking. Miss Carter knelt beside me, tears in her eyes. "Oh, Emily," she murmured. "Daniel sent someone to harm you. You can't go home to him." I stared forward, brain numb. He tried to have me kidnapped. In a hospital. Miss Carter squeezed my hands. "You need to run." I shook my head.
No.
"I need to fight." Ethan whispered, "Mom, what's happening?" I looked at him. He was only 9. A child who had lost one mother, loved another, and now sat between two men. One who raised him, and one who made him. "You're safe," I whispered, stroking his hair. "I promise." But promises felt weak. Suddenly, a police officer stepped into the room. "Ma'am, are you Emily Parker?" "Yes." He looked at me with sympathy. "We found out the man in the hallway has priors, kidnapping, assault, drug trafficking." I cover my mouth. "And he was hired today under your husband's credit card." My stomach dropped. The officer added softly, "You need a restraining order. Immediately." I nodded.
Yes.
"I will." He walked out to finish paperwork. Ethan grabbed my shirt sleeve. "Mom, Dad is scary." That broke my heart all over again. I kissed his cheek. "I won't let him near you." But even as I spoke, fear crawled under my skin. Because Daniel wouldn't stop. I knew him. Every corner of him. He would keep going until he destroyed me. Miss Carter whispered in my ear, "Emily, what are you thinking?" I swallowed hard. "I'm thinking Daniel knows something we don't."
She frowned.
"What do you mean?" I lowered my voice. He said, "Tomorrow I'll give you a reason to hate me forever." That wasn't just a threat. That was a promise. Miss Carter shivered. "What do you think he's planning?" I answered honestly, "I don't know." But it terrified me. A nurse came in. "Emily, Ethan needs to sleep. You should get some rest too." I shook my head. "I'm not leaving." The nurse nodded kindly. "You don't have to." Ethan reached for my hand. "Stay until I sleep?" "I'll stay forever if you want." He smiled weakly. "I want that." Slowly, his eyes drifted shut. Miss Carter sat with me silently for a minute. Then she said something that sent my heart spinning. "Emily, now that you know the truth, what will you do about Daniel?" The question sat heavy in the air. I stared at Ethan. "I want revenge," I whispered. Her eyes widened. "You mean divorce?" I shook my head slowly. "Revenge." Miss Carter swallowed hard. "What kind?" "The kind that makes him feel everything he made Ethan feel." Hours passed slowly. The hospital turned quieter and darker. I tried to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw that man with the gun walking toward my son. I kept replaying Daniel's words. "It's time. Do it." What did he start? Who else was coming? What was happening outside this room? Around midnight, a nurse walked in. "There's someone asking for Emily Parker." My chest tightened. "Name?" Another voice answered behind her. "I'm her lawyer." I stood up fast. "I don't have a lawyer." A tall woman stepped inside. Black suit, glasses, sharp face, cold eyes. "Your husband hired me this evening," she said. "And he gave me something to give you." My heart thudded. "What is it?" She reached into her bag and pulled out a large envelope. "You should read it." I opened it. Slowly, hands shaking. Inside, divorce papers. I stared, stunned. Miss Carter gasped. "What?" "Already." But that wasn't the worst part. There was another document behind them. A full custody petition. He wanted Ethan. Only Ethan. Not me. And, beneath that, a declaration claiming I had mental instability, violent tendencies, and emotional abuse toward a minor. I couldn't breathe. I whispered, "He's setting me up." The lawyer replied coldly, "Actually, Mrs. Parker, he already did." I blinked.
What?
She handed me a flash drive. On this drive is home security footage. It proves you struck your son. My head snapped up. I never touched Ethan. Miss Carter stood. You're lying. But the lawyer didn't blink. Your husband told me to deliver a message. What message? I whispered. She leaned closer, her voice ice cold. He wants you to know you can't win. My legs shook. My vision blurred. I grabbed the lawyer's arm. Why is he doing this? She stared at me. He said you betrayed him. Before I could respond, Ethan suddenly woke up screaming.
Mom. Mom.
I ran to him. It's okay, baby. No, he sobbed. You don't understand. Dad isn't done yet.
What?
I whispered. He said I have to help him or he'll hurt you. I froze. What did he tell you to do? Ethan's voice shook. He told me to lie about you in court. Every part of me broke. I cupped his face. Ethan, listen to me. You don't have to lie. You don't have to protect Daniel anymore. He cried harder.
No.
He said he recorded videos. He said he can make it look real. He said he'll make everyone believe you're crazy. The room spun. Miss Carter grabbed my shoulders. Emily, she whispered, he's framing you. The lawyer cleared her throat. One more thing. I turned. There's a court order requiring you to leave Ethan alone until the hearing. Daniel has temporary custody starting tomorrow morning. I felt like the world cracked open under my feet. No, I breathed. No, absolutely not. The lawyer shrugged. I'm just the messenger. You're a monster, Miss Carter snapped. The lawyer glanced at Ethan. You should start saying goodbye. I lunged forward, but Miss Carter held me back. Ethan screamed.
No.
I want my mom. The lawyer walked out without looking back. Miss Carter whispered, Emily, this is not the same man you married. I know, I choked out. He's worse. I looked at Ethan. Tears ran down his cheeks. He looked so small, so scared. I want to run away, he whispered. I want to live with you. Forever. And something inside me clicked. I leaned to his ear and whispered, Then we will. Miss Carter gasped. Emily, that's kidnapping. No, I said quietly. That's survival. At that exact moment, the hospital fire alarm went off. Sirens blared. Lights flashed red. Nurses yelled.
Patients panicked.
I grabbed Ethan. Miss Carter grabbed the paperwork. We have to move. I yelled. We ran into the hallway. Chaos everywhere. Then I noticed something. Only our wing's alarm was sounding. Only our hallways smelled like smoke. Only our corner lights flickered. This wasn't an accident. Someone triggered it. Someone wanted us to run. Someone planned this moment. Miss Carter grabbed my hand. Emily, something is wrong. Then she stopped. Her face turned pale. Standing at the end of the hallway, leaning against the wall, smiling like a wolf, was Daniel, holding a lighter in his hand. And blocking our only exit, he said calmly, Time's up, Emily. The lawyer stood there, smirking, waiting for me to break. Miss Carter gripped my shoulder. Emily, don't sign anything. And I didn't. Instead, I stood up slowly and asked the lawyer one question. Where did this footage come from? She lifted her chin. Your home security system. I nodded. Perfect. Because she didn't know what I knew. Miss Carter had secretly been recording every conversation Daniel and I had today on her school laptop. She handed it quietly to the police when the armed man was arrested. And by then, detectives had already gone through it, heard everything Daniel said on the ambulance call, and placed a trace on his phone. The lawyer blinked as two detectives walked straight into Ethan's hospital room. One of them said, Mrs. Parker, we need you to step back. Daniel entered behind them, his hair a mess, his eyes wild, hands cuffed behind his back. What is this? He screamed. Uncuff me. The detective didn't flinch. We found your texts with the suspect you hired.
Attempted kidnapping.
Threat to life. Conspiracy. Daniel's face drained of color. Ethan sat up in his hospital bed, eyes wide.
Dad, why?
Daniel looked at him, desperate. I did it for you, buddy. For us. But Ethan shook his head. Quietly. Firmly. You lied to me. You made me hate the only person who ever tried to love me. Daniel collapsed to his knees. How could I tell you the truth? You weren't my son. And those words echoed through the hospital walls. Everyone froze. Even Daniel realized what he had just done. I stepped forward.
Calm.
Cold. You just admitted abuse, I whispered. You just confessed to the police. On video. In front of your son. Daniel stared up at me, horrified. You set me up? I leaned closer. No, Daniel. You set yourself on fire. I just gave you the match. The officers pulled him up. He screamed Ethan's name the whole way down the hallway. But Ethan didn't move.
Didn't look at him. Didn't shed a tear.
Then the lawyer, now pale, whispered, I withdraw representation, and walked out. Silence filled the room. Heavy, emotional silence. Ethan looked at me.
Slowly. Carefully.
Mom, he whispered. Are you staying? I kissed his forehead. I was always staying. He held my wrist like lifeline rope. I'm sorry for everything I ever said to you. I shook my head.
No.
You're hurting. And the person who should have protected you used you instead.
He started to cry.
Real tears. Tears a child shouldn't carry. I held him until morning. Daniel was charged with attempted kidnapping, child endangerment, custodial interference, fraud, and medical assault. Police also confirmed Alec, the firefighter, was alive. Witness protection. Hidden after exposing corruption in the fire department. 2 days later, I received a phone call. A voice I hadn't heard in a decade said, Emily. It was Alec.
Alive.
And the second he learned Ethan was his son, he cried harder than I'd ever heard a man cry. He rushed to the hospital. Ethan stared at him silently. Same eyes. Same smile. Same curls. And for the first time since Natalie died, Ethan laughed. They look the same, he whispered. Alec hugged him gently. I loved you before you ever took your first breath. I stood beside them, finally breathing. Before sentencing, Daniel asked to speak in court. He looked at Ethan, then at me. You took everything from me. I smiled. No, Daniel. You lost everything on your own. The judge agreed. Daniel received 27 years. No parole. His final words echoed down the courtroom hallway as officers dragged him away. You are mine, Emily. I didn't turn back. That night, Ethan fell asleep in my arms and whispered the 7 words I had waited 3 years to hear. Good night, Mom. I love you. And that was the moment I knew. This wasn't a story about revenge. Not really. It was a story about truth finally winning. About a boy finding his real mother. And a woman finding her strength. Daniel tried to destroy us, but in the end, we destroyed his power over us instead. And we walked out of that hospital not broken, but reborn. Together. Mother and son. Forever.